real pleasure for me as a longtime fan to be sitting here with Aaron Gray.
Here with Larry Hama.
We're talking with Kevin J. Anderson, best-selling author.
Mr. Neil Adams.
I am here with David Prince.
Axel Alonso, editor.
Shadow Stevens. And Devil's Comic-Con with John Delancey.
Tom King.
Kevin Conroy.
Free comic book day.
Denise Crosby.
PopCon Pop Expo.
Here on location at Star Wars Celebration.
Cafe Expo, talking for our second time with Gil Gerard.
Wichita, Kansas at Time Eddie.
Producer David Gerald.
I've got Eric Flint.
Are here at Smallville Comic-Con.
Wizard World St. Louis.
VillageCon in Bentonville, Arkansas.
Michael Lombardi.
We were talking with Alan Dean.
Quincy Allen.
Suzanne Landon.
Of Starlog Magazine, Mr. Kerry Oakwood.
Chris Sabi.
Len Lee. Dave Schwartz. Mano Incarami. Jason Aaron.
This is Sci-Fi for Me, your portal to the science fiction multiverse.
The Immortal Mask, a 1970s superhero crime noir adventure that follows a retired soldier who is given a covenant interview with a death row inmate. What he learns from the interview thrusts him into Atlanta's shadowy underworld. He'll have to utilize his military training to survive from being hunted for the information that could topple the most powerful ruling class in the city. This is not a pre-order or a crowdfunding campaign. Get your books now at denalies.com.
25 seconds to curtain, folks.
Your favorite podcast is Critical Blast.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mark Polonia. Mark, welcome to the show. It's not often that I get to speak with movie directors, so I have changed my entire mindset of questions. Usually we're talking with graphic novel creators or artists and writers, so it should be close to the same thing, I would think. I mean,
well, thank you for having me here, and that was the biggest applause I've probably ever gotten. So I thank you for that too.
I can make it bigger.
That's okay.
So Mark is here because he has 2 movies coming out real soon here. In fact, maybe they're out already. I don't know off the top of my head. If they are, you'll be able to get them from the Amazon links below the video right here. I've already clicked, linked them to the show. Opens in a whole new window, so put them in your shopping cart while we're talking, because we're going to need a bigger show by the time we're done here. We have got
a lot of shark. A lot of
shark. It is Shark Day here at Critical Blast. So the first one, now I'm going to start with Jurassic Shark 3.
Okay.
Because it's a trilogy. It's a sequel. So it's a trilogy so far. There may be Jurassic Shark 4. I don't know what your plans are for that. What I can tell from the title what it is. It's a prehistoric shark, which by default means it's ginormous and hungry. So give us the elevator pitch on Seavenge here.
Seavenge is the third in the Jurassic Shark series. I directed the second one. Brett Kelly directed part 1. And they all have a sort of thematic thing about a megalodon, which looks like a great white shark, just a lot bigger, attacking people at a resort, or some of the films have bank robbers and a stolen painting and things like that. So there's a lot of crime drama in it too. It's more like one of those early made for sci-fi shark movies where there was always some underworld element involved, whether it was Sharks in Venice or Shark Attack 2. The shark itself can't really propel the whole story, so you have to have some other element in the plot to to kind of move it along and put people in harm's way with the shark. So
Sure.
Revenge is part 3, and it does share. It's a direct sequel to part 2, but only shares certain elements from the first one.
Okay, yeah, because it's even with Cocaine Bear when they did that, one of the biggest complaints I heard about the movie was not enough bear, too many people. But that was where the story was. So it's
I never saw Cocaine Bear, but people always ask me is like, well, did you come up with this idea after that came out? And the truth, and this is 100% true, is Cocaine Shark was made a year ago, and it was called Narco Shark. So our movie was really kind of first. It just shares a title because the distributor Wild Eye thought we should change the title to obviously cash in on the hot minute that Cocaine Bear was popular. So
yeah,
so we really didn't rip. I'm here to say we did not rip it off. It does have cocaine. It does have drugs and a shark. That's where the similarity ends. And our story isn't true, unlike the Cocaine Bear. So
well, yeah, neither was the Cocaine Bear movie. I mean, it was inspired by a dead bear. Not a rampage, but that would have been a much shorter movie, I guess. And of course we just jumped from Jurassic Shark 3 to Cocaine Shark there because, like I said, they're coming out at the same time. We're talking about both. Both of these movies, by necessity, must have to rely on a lot of digital effects. I mean, how many practical effects do you use in a film like Cocaine Shark?
Well, to be honest, I like to use practical effects. There's probably, amongst the two films, there might be 6 digital effects where we just couldn't get our prop or our model to do what it wants. And we also had a fin. We had a prop fin. So what you really have to do when you're making a movie like this, in a more practical sense, we never had a full shark prop. We had pieces of it, which everyone that drove by while we were filming on the boat really got a kick out of when they see a big shark head sticking out of the back end of a boat and whatnot. But you really have to design the movie. You have to know what shots you want. Okay, this will work here. This will work here. We can do this in post and combine it. Sometimes we do stop motion animation. We'll use digital very, very sparsely and lightly just for the things that our physical props or effects simply can't accomplish. So it's really just a matter of looking at the script, breaking it down, storyboarding it, and knowing where your effects go and what type of effect you're going to do for that specific shot.
So from a director's perspective, why would you choose to go with practical effects over digital effects? I know moviegoers who are true fans I always prefer the practical effects in a gore or horror movie. But isn't it cheaper to do digital? Do you get a better visual when you use practical? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean it's a personal thing. I mean, digital effects certainly have their place. I think they've revolutionized filmmaking, but at the same time they tend to be grossly overused. You watch a movie like Avengers and you don't know if you're watching a movie or playing a video game. To me, it all blends together. I'm old school, so I prefer physical effects. Plus, on set, you can work with them. It makes your shoot a little more difficult, but your actors can see something. You're not just saying, oh, imagine there's a big shark head here. You actually pull out this giant shark head and put it in the water and pull it behind your boat, and it's something for them to react to. And I've always appreciated physical effects, even in this day and age where, you can do anything digitally. And contrary to popular belief, it is not cheaper than actual physical stuff. It costs more money because you have to have more people to do it. It's a very skilled craft. So I just prefer physical effects. I just think it's more fun and it's more challenging, that's for sure. It would certainly be easier to just drop a digital shark in all these movies that I've made, but it just wasn't practical. And I quite honestly probably wouldn't have been as interested in the project if that were the case.
Plus, I like the fact that after the movie, you have all these props that are like souvenirs. Say, look what
And
it's like when you
recoup
see
them.
the stuff from King Kong. Yeah, and recoup them.
Yeah, they're
Use
not
them
just
for-
souvenirs. At my budget level, if it survives the shoot, it gets used at some point later down the line. So
Yeah, right down to the point where you take King Kong's gates and you burn it down for the city of Atlanta.
yeah, someday we'll just let that shark head sink down into the water and build a new one. And they don't last long because the water does ruin them. Typically, you get about a year and a half out of them.
I would expect that because what are they made out of? They're not made out of like porcelain or ceramic or
No, they're
plastic.
made out of foam and latex and resin, things like that. Everything you don't want to put in the water, but you have to. So when you're shooting them, you shoot all the dry stuff first. And dry stuff would be if you're going to comp it and green screen and fake it underwater, or if it's attacking, because they have movable mouths, and you shoot all that next, because then you can spray blood all over it. And the last thing you do is put them in the water and shoot all your water stuff, because you don't know what's going to happen. The rope could break on the boat and you lose it anyway, or, once the elements hit it like that, it's all downhill. And then the final stage is we take it into a tank, a pool that has a big window, and we can actually shoot underwater footage of the prop. So, you really kind of stage your effects that way. Now the fins are different. They take more abuse. They take more abuse than say that the head does. But its last adventure is in my pool. I have a pool and I installed a big window in it. So not only is it the family pool, it's also Polonia Brothers Entertainment's underwater tank. And we'll take it in the pool either in the day or the night, light it, and shoot stuff there with it. And it adds to the production value, when you can really go underwater and shoot stuff rather than do green screen with it all the time.
Well, we want to take a second to acknowledge the audience who is here with us. Apex Comics saying hello to everyone. Glad you're here, Apex. Likewise, Woody, a regular member of our chat community. Glad that you're here during our special noontime showing here. Pixel Trader has popped in. Cocaine shark. Yeah, don't eat it, Pixel. It's not for that. Mike Walters popped in to like and share, say hi. Appreciate that, Mike. Radio Retro Future, all the way from the Netherlands. It's evening for him. Thank you, Bonsart. Good to see you. Carrie is here, and yes, Carrie, you're absolutely right. I only have gray T-shirts. It saves time on choosing what I wear for the day. So it's like I don't have to think, does this go with my gray pants? Because that's what I'm wearing is gray pants. And is there a baby shark in either of these movies?
No, there's not a baby shark. They're all gigantic male and or female sharks. We don't really identify the gender, so I guess it's anyone's guess. But no, we're not pulling a Jaws 3 where one's a baby and the other one's the mother or the father. Just legit.
That would be a shock to happen in something like Jurassic Shark, where they're like, oh, this is the giant shark, and then they find out, like during the last 20-minute climactic scene, this was the baby. Here come the mother.
Right. Right. Yeah, and they do that in movies. I've seen a couple shark movies where they've kind of done that. But yeah, you do what you got to do with prehistoric megalodons. So
you mentioned how the producers changed the title of Narco Shark to Cocaine Shark to cash in on Cocaine Bear, because I was wondering, wow, how fast can you make a movie these days? How fast can you make a movie?
From inception to final delivery, for me, it can be as little as a month. We typically, you start with an idea like any project, and you look at your budget, which is minuscule, and you figure out what can we do? What resources do we have at hand? There's a lot of boats in my shark movies because I own a boat, and why not put it in it, right? And I have free access of the marina. They let us do whatever we want there. So that's production value. So you come up with a story, you cast your movie. Typically a shoot, at a micro budget level is 4 to 7 days. I generally average 4 to 5 because, people are giving their time, and time is money and money is time. Then you take it into post. I could turn a production around within 3 weeks. So within a month, I could have a movie conceptualized and delivered to the distributor. But then it takes there's a pipeline there I'm not in control of. So like Jurassic Shark 3 and Narco Shark are released almost a month apart, but there's a good 8 months between those two productions.
Yeah, I say you could reasonably put out 10 movies a year with 2 months off.
My record is 11 movies in a year. Yeah. So that was one every month almost, or every 35 days, something like that.
Given that the producers did kind of glom onto the fact that there was an interest in something as crazy as Cocaine Bear to make it Cocaine Shark, we kind of sat around the Critical Blast Studios here and gave that some thought as to what other movies might pop out. I'd like to just share them with you, see if I could pitch them to a producer. How would you think about this? This is Let Sleeping Hogs Lie. This is Borbiturate.
Animal, that's a great title, and the artwork's beautiful. Animal rights people might have a problem with that. So that'd be a hard sell.
It gets worse though, Mark. So this is probably a sleeping pig is our best shot so far. She's been down all her life, but she's hatching a plan. This is Heroin Chick.
That has potential if you're going to make plush toys of a heroin chick.
Okay.
You'd have to market that one. You'd have to market that with a plushie, I think. If I was a marketing director, I'd say, yeah, we need a plushie, and the actual needle and stuff could have some sort of corn syrup in it, but it's got to be foam in a bright color so no one thinks it's real.
There you go. Okay, that's I appreciate it. I know people who make plushies. I can make that happen. Down Under, Tripped Out, LS Dingo. I'm not really feeling this one, but it's there.
Yeah, that's got a small market overseas, but I'm sure in Australia that might be a hit. That's a local cultural thing though. Yeah, that probably wouldn't do well in America, but it'd be great in 3D. Look at all that color.
I know. He's tripped out. He came, he saw, he chilled. Marijuana.
That could be on the Sci-Fi Channel. That idea could be on the Sci-Fi Channel.
He'd have to talk, and we'd have to get Cheech Marin to voice him if we could.
Well, people could think he talks, but they're imagining it.
Oh, I like that. I like that idea.
These are great ideas. You shouldn't be showing these to anybody because in 7 months someone's going to make a movie with one of these on it, and it'll make millions, and you won't get it.
My friend George did this. My friend George told me trademark all of these before you show them. So I'm like, okay, fine.
No, that's a great idea.
She's as happy as a clam. Molly Mollusk.
Well, when the shark fade runs out, that might be a good one.
I don't know what you do with a mollusk on Molly, but
it'd have to sing. I could see this being a Disney movie, maybe.
I like that. Yeah, follow up with The Little Mermaid. They got to, recoup their money somehow on that one. Musculin 2, this time for sure. He's drunk and he's in the city, and Canada will never be the same.
That's right. We'd have to shoot it in Canada, so we'd have to get permits from the government. They wouldn't let us. They wouldn't let us bring a giant moose head across the border anyway.
Oh well, never mind then. It's been more than 4 hours. Viagra Dolphin.
If you were going to do an adult movie, that would probably be a great title.
and this is the one where I looked at this one, I'm like, there's a story here. So the setup for this is one we're going to do a graphic novel on.
This one?
No, the next one, the one I'm getting ready to show you. There's a Mexican circus, and one of the guys there is a fentanyl smuggler. And he, there's a raid on the circus, so he hides his stash under the haystack. And while he's running off not to get caught, the haystack gets eaten. So he didn't just cross the border; he trampled it. That's an elephant.
That I think that's the best one yet.
Thank you. That's what I thought. So, coming to a theater near you soon. I don't know how you would train an elephant to go on a rampage through a city.
We definitely have to go all digital with that one. No practical. We would have to bypass our practical effects and go all digital with an elephant. I would be afraid to be around a real elephant, to be quite honest.
They're big, and you can't just get them to run and then stop.
And they're friendly until you put them in a bad mood, and how do you stop a rampaging elephant?
Especially when it's all fueled up on fentanyl.
You can't shoot it. Yeah.
No. Well, I appreciate you indulging our little jokes there, but
those are great. They're all great ideas. I mean, we laugh about it, but they are great ideas.
You know, I've got a motivational picture somewhere that says for team meetings, says always share your ideas. Remember, at one point somebody thought it was a cool idea to have a tornado filled with sharks. And how many movies have that put out now?
Well, you might want to check the Asylum's website in a couple months to see if any of your ideas got borrowed to be in one of their films.
hey, I'd be happy.
I'd still want a little cash for it, though.
Something just went weird. Because now when I talk, it's coming back to me. I think your mic just came unplugged.
Mine?
Yeah, I'm echoing back from you now.
You sound fine to me. Mine's. I don't have a plug mic. My mic is on the actual computer, so I don't have a plugged-in mic.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll just deal with the echo. Hopefully, no one else is hearing it. There was a second there where you were talking right before it started echoing, where it sounded like somebody pressed the fast forward on your tape, and I don't know what happened there. Oh, we are hearing it. Well, it's not coming back to me now. So, but thank you for. Pops for letting me know. No, the YouTube window's not open. We're cool on that account. All right, so I know we got about 20 minutes left here before you need to take off. How many movies do you have on your desk at any one time that you're like, okay, this is the next one, and we got to schedule this one for 3 months later? What are you looking at over the next year? How many movies you can be doing?
Well, I've made like 96, 97 movies in my career. From 1987. So I could have anywhere from a project in development, shooting a project, one in post-production. So you always have this arc, so to speak. When you make 7 or 8 movies a year, you're always in production at some point with 1 or 2 different movies. So it's just like a sliding scale of production. Probably not the best way to do it, but I like to work on a lot of things. So I've learned how to adapt, because I don't just make movies. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather. I have a full-time job. There's a lot to juggle in a day. So you really have to get this down to a science and be not just productive, but be prepared. And that's the key. You can't go into any kind of film, whether it's a big budget or low budget movie, unprepared, because, you can't waste time. You just can't waste time. That doesn't mean you rush. It just means that the better organized you are and the more preparation you do, the easier your shoot's going to do. And then that makes post-production a lot easier.
There was a time, when you'd hear about a movie being produced, and then they'd say, "Oh, it's so bad that it's just going to go straight to DVD." So the straight to DVD was sort of a scarlet letter on a film. To me, I'm thinking that that's actually like, hey, we can get the movies to the customers a little bit faster. We don't have to worry about going through the theatrical circuit. How do you feel about the theatrical releases versus straight to DVD releases?
Well, I think it's great because, you have to understand that when someone says, oh, we're going to forego theatrical distribution and go straight to DVD, that typically meant we can't get a theatrical release. It wasn't the filmmaker's fault. At that point in the game, the Hollywood system made sure your movie wasn't going to get a theatrical release because they bought up, they bought up all the movie theaters, and there's these huge chains which is a monopoly, which I thought was illegal in the United States, but I guess it's just who you are. And it was an avenue for filmmakers to get their products seen. Roger Corman was kind of the first guy to do that because he had theatrical stuff lined up with distributors, but he found that they were taking less and less of his product. He was making less and less money. And here you have home video sitting there, ripe for the taking. So he would shoot movies still on 35 millimeter, They might play them one day so he could say it was released theatrical, because as odd as it sounds, some distributors, home video distributors, that was part of the deal. If your movie didn't show somewhere on a screen, they weren't going to pick it up. Even if it played somewhere for 3 days, that was good enough for them. So here he is making, movies under $1 million and then licensing them to companies like Vestron, Media Home Entertainment, MGM. He's still doing pretty good. In fact, he was doing better because now he isn't making all these prints and having to chase sub-distributors around to get his money and et cetera, et cetera. It just was a quicker, easier way to move product. And eventually something that goes theatrical ends up on home video anyway. So he realized that the longevity for people like him in theatrical releases was almost dead. And in fact, it is for folks like him, certainly for people like me. So yeah, it's not a curse or a stigma. I see it as an opportunity to showcase your work. Doesn't matter if it doesn't play in a theater.
I think you can't get nominated for an Oscar if you didn't play in a theater or didn't have some sort of a limited release. I don't think you're worried about that with Jurassic Shark or Cocaine Shark.
No, I don't think I'll be at the Oscars anytime soon, unless I'm there cleaning up the floor after it's over. But yeah.
Hey, you never know. Practical effects can, be nominated from just about anywhere if they're really, really good. We talked about the home theater distribution market. Now, of course, over the last 4 to 5 years, we've seen this streaming capability come in. Are any of your films making the transition over to streaming services?
Yeah, in fact, almost 70% of my catalog is out there somewhere on streaming, which is great. It's the thing about independents is that they're usually the first one to adopt new trends. When home video came out, the industry didn't want anything to do with it until they saw how much money was being made. Then they move in and push everyone out. Then, sell-through came along, DVD, retailers were stocking that stuff. Again, they moved in and kicked everyone out. And then streaming came along, which fortunately they have little control over, because you can stream your stuff yourself. They can't impose anything on you unless you're dealing with a big company that has ties to major studios. So it's great. I think it's great that people can produce something of an artistic value and get it out there for the right people to enjoy. It's a perfect time to be a filmmaker if you want to be one. It was a lot harder 30 years ago than it is today with the advancements in technology and the places that you can get your stuff seen. It's really revolutionized it. The only downside is, and this really isn't a downside, but there's so much out there. You could spend 2 hours on a streaming site going through one title after another. By the time you get back to the end, you got to start over again because you can't remember what you saw. There's just this vast amount of material out there for you to discover, and that's great. If you really want to, you'll find the time to seek it out. So it's a great time to really be involved in this industry at the level that I'm at. I have no idea where it's going to go in the future. You can never predict this kind of stuff.
Well, leaving the future for the past here for a moment, going back 30 years, what was the first film that you made, and why did you make it? I mean, you had to come up with money. You had to feel passionate, I guess, about the plot, or at least about the idea of being a filmmaker. Can you take us back there and tell us what it was and what you were experiencing?
Well, we started making movies on Super 8, as a kid, because that was the only format that we could afford. And then home video came around, and my father bought a video camera, which he probably used 3 times, and then it sat there. So we were in high school, and we'd made a couple attempts at feature-length movies that didn't go anywhere, but they did eventually come out. But our first real film that got any kind of notice was shot the summer after we graduated. It was called Splatter Farm, and it was basically a movie that was made out of necessity. We were the actors and the crew with one other person. We had access to this farm. we had all these special effects left over from years of making them. So we just devised a story to shoot with that, with a camcorder and a bunch of broken down lights and an extension cord that would electrocute you out in the yard at night with all the dew on the grass. And you know, we made it. We finished it. We shot a feature, and it got distributed shortly after. We were 17 years old. It was the beginning of our career, and it's a cult. It's considered a cult classic now. But you know, when you make a movie, especially with little or nothing, close to nothing, you know, you're just hoping to get the thing done. You know, and here we are, 37, 38 years later. People still talk about it.
Yep. There it is on IMDb, and we've got fans in the audience right now.
It has its fans. It definitely does. But it was, you know, it was our attempt to break into the business, and we really, everyone involved worked really hard, and it was a lot of fun. And it was a movie, again, made out of necessity. You know, we easily could have said, "Oh, we can't do this. We don't have enough money. We don't have anything." But that never entered our minds. We were always very proactive, and I always get asked this question, and the first time someone asked me that I really had to stop and think. But they said, "Mark, whatever made you think you could even make a movie?" And I thought, that's a great question. I thought about it, and my answer was, because it never occurred to me that I couldn't.
Yeah.
And that's half the battle.
So,
and that's with anything you want to do in life, not just making movies.
It may just be my viewing habits and experience, but it seems to me that the majority of these Super 8 VHS shoestring budget films are gore, are you know, slasher films. You don't see somebody, you know, right out of high school saying, "Hey, let's make The Notebook."
Yeah. Well, that's because you have to, you know, we certainly weren't great actors, but you had to make something exploitable. And legitimately, you know, some directors are like, "Oh, I'll make a horror movie because it's easy and it makes money, and then I can move on to make my dramas." I never cared about like that. I love genre films, science fiction, fantasy, horror. So it wasn't a real stretch, or it wasn't, "Oh, we're going to slum it till we can make something good." That's kind of what our interest was in anyway. So
I assumed it was always because, you know, they're filmmakers who really want to be special effects people, because, you know, you always get those practical blood spurting effects. Do you make your own effects? Do you hire those out now?
No, my son is heavily involved in special effects. Before he did, my twin brother, who's sadly passed away, he would handle a lot of that. So no, we try to keep it all in the family, and we can, you know, do a lot of that ourselves, because we had to teach ourselves how to do that. You know, they don't teach you in high school how to make a severed head. You got to figure out how to do that on your own. Yes. And we did, you know, and it was fun, and it was you learned a lot. You just really, it was magical. I mean, it's hard to explain that to someone who doesn't make movies, but it was magical then, making a film, as it is today. That magic and that awe when you start making a film has never left me. I've never lost that, and I think that's why I continue to do what I do. And when I do lose that, I shouldn't be doing it anymore.
All right, we're coming close to wrap up time here, because you are on the interview tour and you've got places to be and people to talk to. Regarding Cocaine Shark, is there, without spoiling the ending, is there a sequel in the works?
I would have to say probably not.
Okay.
I doubt it, because it never was originally intended to be that. So, you know, there's a million different shark ideas. So I'd have to say no, but I hope I'm proven wrong and we can discuss this again.
You wouldn't have thought that the sharks get swept up into a tornado more than once, but by golly, that the weather patterns just keep happening.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Well, Mark, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I appreciate you being here. It's been illuminating to talk about the indie film business and what you guys do. Folks in the chat, folks watching on the replay, again, links below to Jurassic Shark 3, Sea Venge, and to Cocaine Shark, both going to Amazon. Put them in your cart. Have yourself a fun Saturday night with some popcorn and some friends over, and just, you know, laugh at people getting eaten by sharks. There's nothing funnier. Trust me on that one. And I assume there's going to be a lot of blood in the water.
Well, you had to be careful, but yeah, there's definitely blood. But my wife would not be happy if we dumped it in the pool, and the patrol people on the lake where we shot kept a close eye on us after they realized what we were doing. So it's bloody. Okay. It's bloody enough for a shark movie, but not enough to get us fined for littering or whatnot.
Not enough to pull in some real sharks.
No chum. We weren't throwing chum out there.
All right, everybody in the chat, thank you so much for being here this afternoon. I know it's not our usual schedule. I appreciate you getting the alert and popping in to listen and say hello to our guest. And we always appreciate you being here. We don't have a show without you guys. So thank you for popping in. And as always, while you were here, we just hope you had a blast. See you later.